I want to be precise from the very beginning because this moment doesn't need outrage, it needs clarity. Tonight, the Department of Justice claims it has released the Epstein files. That sentence sounds simple. It sounds final. But it is neither. What was released is not transparency. It is a performance of transparency. What we are really seeing here is a carefully managed partial disclosure, one that raises more questions than it answers and creates political damage without delivering accountability. Let's start with the basic fact that should not be ignored. The DOT itself has now admitted in writing to Congress that the Epstein files released tonight are incomplete. That admission alone changes everything. Because today was not a casual release date. Today was the legal deadline. Congress passed a law forcing disclosure. The president signed it. The deadline arrived. And the government responded with thousands of pages where most of the information is simply blacked out. This is not normal redaction. These are pages that communicate nothing. Entire documents reduced to black rectangles, offering no meaningful insight, no clarity, no resolution. And it gets worse. The Justice Department has also confirmed that it went beyond what the law allows when deciding what to withhold. The statute is clear. It allows redactions in limited categories protecting victims' identities, safeguarding ongoing investigations, preventing national security harm. That's it. But DOT officials have now acknowledged they chose to redact and withhold material beyond those limits. That is not compliance. That is defiance, disguised as caution. This is why the backlash is coming not just from Democrats, but from Republicans who authored the law itself. Congressman Thomas Massie, who helped force this legislation through, is now openly saying the release fails both the spirit and the letter of the law. When the lawmakers who wrote the statute are accusing the executive branch of violating it, that is not partisan noise. That is institutional breakdown. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene, who almost never aligns with Massie on anything, is saying the same thing. Release all the files. It's the law. When politicians from opposite ideological ends agree on something, and the government still refuses to comply fully, you have to ask why. Now let's talk about what was released. Among thousands of pages that were already public, the most visually striking new material consists of photographs of Bill Clinton. Clinton with Epstein. Clinton in a pool. Clinton in a jacuzzi. Clinton next to Ghislaine Maxwell. Faces redacted. Context missing. And this is where the situation becomes deeply suspicious. Bill Clinton has not been charged with a crime related to Epstein. That matters legally. But politically, the selective emphasis is impossible to ignore. If only 10% of the total files were released and if decisions were clearly made about which 10%, then this was not random. Someone chose these images. At the same time, the DOT is claiming that ongoing investigations prevent fuller disclosure. That claim collapses under scrutiny. Because the Epstein Files Transparency Act explicitly allows the DOT to withhold information that could harm ongoing investigations. So why release photographs of someone allegedly under investigation at all? This violates not just Justice Department policy, but basic logic. If the investigation is ongoing, you don't release evidence. If the investigation is over, you release everything. What we are seeing is neither. This is selective exposure, enough information to inflame public attention, but not enough to resolve responsibility. And then there's Donald Trump. When given the opportunity to address the Epstein files publicly, Trump refused to take questions. He redirected attention to a drug pricing announcement and avoided the subject entirely. Silence is not neutrality in moments like this. Silence is strategy. The White House is now claiming it was not involved in the DOT's release decision. That it did not review the documents beforehand. That it bears no responsibility for what was disclosed. But the DOT also confirms it briefed the White House on the contents. That contradiction matters. You cannot simultaneously be involved and informed. One of those statements is incomplete. Behind the scenes, the political implications are enormous. This issue cuts across party lines in a way few topics ever do. There is no constituency that opposes transparency on Epstein. Survivors want answers. Voters want names. Lawmakers want closure. And yet the administration chose the one path guaranteed to anger everyone. Which brings us to the most important question: why? There are only three explanations: incompetence, or concealment. If this is incompetence, it suggests a Justice Department incapable of executing a clear legal mandate. That has terrifying implications for far more serious national matters. If this is fear, and the government knows what is in the remaining files and is afraid of the consequences of full disclosure. And if this is concealment, then the Epstein case is not over. It is still active, still protected, still dangerous to those involved. Survivors understand this instinctively. For them, this is not about photographs or headlines. It's about decision-making. Why certain charges were never brought. Why immunity deals were signed. Why some names disappeared from investigations while others didn't. The absence of eyewitness reports is especially alarming. These documents are foundational. They contain first-hand accounts. And they are nowhere to be found in this release. That absence is not accidental. The Epstein files were supposed to be the end of secrecy. Instead, they have become proof that secrecy is still being enforced just under a different justification. What we are watching is not disclosure. It is damage management. Political blame is being propositioned. Visuals are being weaponized. Little accountability is being delayed. And public trust is being strained yet again. This is how institutions lose legitimacy, not through one catastrophic lie, but through repeated half-truths that insult the intelligence of the public. The most dangerous outcome is not outrage. It's exhaustion. When people conclude that even legally mandated transparency produces nothing but black pages and political theater, they stop expecting justice altogether. That is the real cost of tonight's release. Not what we learned, but what we now know is still being hidden. And the question going forward is simple and deeply uncomfortable. If this is what compliance looks like when Congress forces disclosure, what else will never be revealed?